we need a new understanding of metaphysics that is closer to the original ideas of metaphysics. Not necessarily the metaphysics of Aristotle, but more like natural philosophy, and even closer to the definition of the word metaphysics, which the meta means above or beyond, the Greek word, so above or beyond the physical. But in order to understand anything above or beyond the physical, it's important that people understand the physical. This is the issue that many metaphysicists or metaphysicians come across in a lot of their arguments, because many people claim that scientists, physicists, and people who are materialists, and even professional scientists, will hear a lot of metaphysicians or metaphysicists claiming that, science is dead, or it stops there, or it can't explain the nature of reality because this metaphysics goes beyond what science can explain. That's a problem without understanding what science can explain. So, if you look at quantum mechanics, for example, and some of the really wacky and mind-bending things that come out of it, string theory being one of them, the many worlds hypothesis, for example, the extra dimensions in string theory, the fact that many of these things are mathematically sound but have not yet any physically testable correlations to go along with the mathematics, that sometimes are purely mathematics, that are in the realm of theoretical physics and mathematical physics. And that is why there should be a new metaphysics, and what I have been working on for many years. And it starts with creating an acronym for the prefix meta, which previously I said is the Greek word which means above or beyond. What's interesting is that conveniently, this prefix meta, M.E.T.A, encompasses the major branches of physics as I see it, and as I see to be the foundation for any metaphysicist or metaphysician, or as I would be known with my Doctor of Divinity and my PhD in metaphysical sciences, as a metaphysical scientist. But the acronym META, M-E-T-A, in my understanding and what I'm asserting and putting forward, should be the standard for metaphysicians, metaphysicists, and metaphysical scientists. And I know that this will rub many in the wrong way because of the fact that they want to make a clear delineation between the physics and metaphysics. However, I know that there is a continuum. And this continuum you can see with mathematics being the foundation of physics, being the foundation of chemistry, being the foundation of biology, being the foundation of psychology, and so on. There could be some arguments against that, but look at that structure. You can put metaphysics underneath all of that, metaphysics or philosophy as the foundation, followed by math and going upwards. Right? Math is the tool, really, that you can use to bridge the gap between physics and metaphysics, which is why this acronym is so important. And what my thesis for metaphysics and metaphysical sciences is M.E.T.A, mathematical, experimental, theoretical, and applied physics. That should be, and what it is actually for me, is my metaphysics, based on mathematics, experimentation, theory, and application. Mathematical, experimental, theoretical, and applied physics. From having at least a foundation of that and understanding the foundations of mathematical, experimental, theoretical, and applied physics, then you can start to say things like, science doesn't know what comes next, blah, blah, blah. But the things that you can see in mathematical, experimental, theoretical, and applied physics, like even just the two things I previously mentioned, string theory and the many worlds hypothesis, you can see all of the science fiction and fantasy that comes out of that. It's what is in, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's string theory when we have all these different dimensions. You can see there's even a very closely related title of a movie that seems similar to something Max Tegmark said, I believe, which is the movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once. And the things that theoretical physicists talk about, and mathematical physicists, and then even pure mathematicians, and the things that you can create and imagine with mathematics alone, is why mathematics, I believe, should be a tool for metaphysicists, metaphysical scientists, and metaphysicians. At least in the very basics, because there's a lot of overlap and crossover. And so I've already defined and put forward a very small part of my thesis and what it is that I believe that, and what I'm actually carrying on as, and how I've been operating as a metaphysical scientist, is that meta for me is not only above and beyond, but it's also mathematical, experimental, theoretical, and applied physics. That is my metaphysics, and the metaphysics that I'm moving forward with and sharing with others. And just a fun example, because I'm a real geek about this, and one of the divination tools called Numerology, I can show how even there you can start to get into some of the fundamentals of mathematics and arithmetic through that. And in the science, if you will allow that, some say pseudoscience of numerology, you'll find things like the commutative law of addition. Some very basic addition that many people don't even practice, and some others who practice numerology don't realize that they practice it, simply because of the language. It's just simply a word, the commutative law of addition. When you take your birthday and you add all of the digits together and then reduce it to a single digit. And for example, if there was a birth date of January 2nd, 3456, that being that year, you would just add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 4 is 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 6 is 21. And then reducing the 21, you would add the 2 plus the 1 and you get a 3. And in that reduction, you've just done some addition there. But one of the things that shows when numerologists are doing these calculations, you can add the numbers in any order that you want to. So it doesn't matter if you add the 1 plus the 3, 4, the year 3, 4, 5, 6, the 1 being for January, the 3, 4, 5, 6 is, then all you're having is 3, 4, 5, 7. And 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 5 is 12, plus 7 is 19. Then you can add that 2 for the January 2nd, and 19 plus 2 is 21, and you still get 2 plus 1 is 3. It doesn't matter if you add the 2 first. That's the commutative law of addition. It doesn't matter what order you add them. And you'll still get that. And also in numerology, when numerologists are doing quick calculations, a 9 can be substituted with a 0 to make a quick calculation if you don't want to go into the double and triple digit numbers to make a calculation. For example, if you have somebody who was born in 1990, and you were adding the year 1990 together. You could simply drop those two nines and add a 1. So let's just do this for example. The birthday, let's just do the January 2nd again, 1990. 1, 2, 1990. Well, we already know that 1 and 2 is 3. And if we want to add that to 1990, we can easily find that that's a 4 because we can drop those two nines. Why? Well, because 9s act like 0 in numerology when we're doing reductions. 9 is a very special number. And for example, 1 plus 9 is 10, right? Plus 9 is 19. But 1 and 9 is 10 again. And 10 is a 1 and a 0, which is a 1. So adding that 1 to the 1, 2 that we previously had 3 still gives it a 4. So whenever you see 9s, you can eliminate them in this reduction because 9 can act like a 0. Any numeral, any number you add to 9 comes back to itself. Again, we just showed that 9 plus 1 is 10, and 10 is a 1 and a 0 in this reduction. And 1 plus 0 is 1. You can go on. 9 plus 2 is 11. 1 and 1 and that 11 is 2. 9 plus 3 is 12. 1 and 2 is 3. 9 plus 4, right, is 13. 1 and 3 is 4. And that's what makes 9 a very special number. And many years ago, there was a show on television when I lived in New York that was called Square One. And they had this song about 9. And it said, 999, fantastic number 9. It's perfectly consistent. It all comes back to 9. And they were teaching some kind of numerology and a reduction of the number 9 when they showed multiplication, which again is interesting. Multiplication is under the same system of addition. And anytime you multiply 9 by any number, it comes back to itself. I mean, simply 9 times 1, of course, is 9. But when we look at 9 times 2, we have 9 times 2 is 18, and reducing that, 18 is a 1 plus an 8, which is a 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 2 and 7 is 9. 9 times 4 is 36. 3 and 6 is 9. 9 times 5 is 45. 4 and 5 is 9, and on and on and on. It doesn't matter. You could 9 times 111 is an easy one. 9, 9, and 9 again, right? Which is 27, which again is 2 and 7 is 9. I mean, on and on. So 9 is a very special number in that 9 can be acting like a 0, and it also can act like a 1 in multiplication. It acts like a 0 in certain uses of it in addition, and it can act like a 1 multiplied in certain uses of it. In addition, with these types of reductions, is what I mean, and they're numerological reductions, which again is a fun way of playing with addition and multiplication, which again, you can see how a lot of these cults of math were started, like with Pythagoras and numerology and all these things like that, and these different qualities of these numbers. Why does 9 have that quality? It might seem trivial to you, but that's also an interesting thing. The word trivial comes from trivium, which were subjects that, imagine the trivium being the elementary school subjects and the quadrivium being the advanced and higher subjects. In older systems of learning, the trivium was grammar, logic, and rhetoric. So you learn the grammar, right? You learn how to speak and use words. And then the logic of how to form them, the syntax and everything like that, right? And then the rhetoric of how to use it in discussion. And once you got past your grammar, logic, and rhetoric, then you move up to the higher system, the quadrivium, which, if you're looking at it as a diamond, right? At the bottom of that diamond is number. Number is the foundation of everything, even though it's on that point of the diamond. I mean, if you want to look at it as a square, right, you can do that too, and it's a flat bottom, right? And at that base is number. And then on one side, for me, looking at it, it's to the left, you have geometry, right, which is related to number and volume, right? But then you have music, which is related to number and time. So geometry is space, music is time. And then at the top of the quadrivium is astronomy, which is number in space and time. So you have the quadrivium of number, space, and geometry, number in music, time, and astronomy, number in space and time. And number is this beautiful bridge that can take you from grammar, logic, and rhetoric and up through this basic number theory and number systems to geometry, to music, and to astronomy. And just that basic thinking and using number is a phenomenal practice that can elevate our minds if we work with it. And that is a sidebar, some extended stuff that I went into. But number is a very important foundation. And I don't think that it's any coincidence, metaphysically, that M in English is a word for mathematics, and it's the foundation for my metaphysics, M.E.T.A being mathematical, experimental, theoretical, and applied physics. And there's a lot more that you can understand about how you can experiment with and apply the math and the theory of physics. But that's it for now. There's a need for a new understanding of metaphysics that is closer to some of the old ideas of natural philosophy and even Aristotelian metaphysics, where it needs to be practical and useful. And before anyone starts saying things that the physics and scientists don't know about the metaphysical world, I would suggest you look at things like the many worlds hypothesis and the theories in string theory and other things about superposition and entanglement and the Copenhagen interpretation of the Schrödinger equation and all types of things like that, that whether they be wrong or right, physicists, scientists are exploring our existence and reality in ways that you won't be able to properly address and criticize if you don't at least have these foundations of mathematics, experimentation, theory, and application. The new metaphysics, M.E.T.A, M.E.T.A, for metaphysical sciences. Mathematical, experimental, theoretical, and applied physics.